I am super excited for the gospel for this Sunday. And the reason why is it begins different than any of the other gospels. It's the very, very beginning of the gospel of Luke, right? And so we have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, right? So Matthew, Mark, and John, they all begin their gospels just by starting to tell the story. But Luke is actually like referencing, he says, my dear Theophilus, this is why I'm sharing this with you, right? It was like a letter that he was sharing with this friend who had a pretty cool name, Theophilus. That's a pretty cool name. I'm going to be a pretty cool thing to name a dog, right? So he's writing to this guy Theophilus, and he says, the reason why I am writing to you and sharing this with you is so that you might know the certainty of what it is that we teach about Jesus. Now, if we think about certainty on something, right, like a math problem, like 1 + 1 = 2, we're able to know that, right? Very often, I think if we're trying to say, like, here's something that I'm going to tell you that way you can be sure of this, and certain, absolutely certain of the knowledge, typically it's going to be like facts and formulas and things that really prove information. What does Luke end up doing? He shares the beautiful story of the teachings of Jesus, right? He just tells a story. Typically, you don't prove the certainty of something by just telling a story about it. They'd be like, okay, well, that's a nice story. Prove it. But here's what's so beautiful. The gospel message, the story of what Jesus has done in our lives and his teaching. Ultimately, Jesus' teaching, it boils down to God loves us. And he came from heaven to earth to die for us the way we might know that we're loved that much. So much that he was willing to die in order for us to have life. That's the gospel message. That's the story. And the beautiful thing is, it's not just words. It's not just a story. Because we can encounter Jesus here and now. Right? When we hear the gospel, here's why it's proof. Because that story is meant to set our hearts on fire and to allow us then to pray and to actually encounter Jesus. The gospel isn't meant to be something that we just hear and say, oh, that's a nice story. It's supposed to make us yearn all the more for God and then actually reach out to meet him. How do we know the certainty of him? Not just by hearing his story. We hear the story that awakens our hearts. We reach out to him. We meet him. We encounter him. We encounter him through the story and through our prayer. And we come to realize he's alive and he's our friend. And he didn't just love us then. He loves us here and now. And he wants to be with us. So know that you are so loved and come to know the certainty of God's love for you through hearing the story, being awake and having your heart say, this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. And it does something. It moves us because it's an encounter. 1 + 1 doesn't move your heart, even if you're a mathematics guru, right? Jesus does move your heart because he's alive and it desires a relationship with you. So hear the story, know the story, believe the story, but come to know its certitude through coming in union with the heart that's at the heart of the gospel and the message. God bless you.